They said she didn't belong loud enough for the whole pool to hear, but quiet enough to pretend it was just discipline. Funny thing is, when you're the only black girl in a sea of pale swim caps, silence hits louder than any insult. It was 7:02 a.m. at Redbridge Aquatic Complex, a pristine training facility just outside Portland. Chlorine clung to the air like tension. A line of teenage swimmers stood rigid at the edge of the pool, their reflections wobbling in the blue tiles beneath. Coach Darren Lockley paced in front of them like a drill sergeant, whistle around his neck, clipboard in hand, and a permanent sneer under his mustache. But his eyes locked on one person, Amira Cole, 14. Lean build, smooth chestnut skin glistening under the overheads. Her braids were tucked into her cap, but not enough to hide who she was in that space. Cole coach barked, voice echoing. "Still think you earned that suit?" Amira didn't speak. Her lips pressed into a tight line. One hand gripped her goggles so hard her knuckles paled. She stared at the pool, didn't flinch. Darren stepped closer, voice dropping crueler now. "You're a courtesy pick, sweetheart. Someone upstairs thought we needed more color. Well, congrats. You're making us look bad." A beat of silence. Behind her, the team shifted awkwardly. A few glanced at the ground. One or two exchanged glances, but no one moved. Except one voice, small, trembling, but brave. "That's not fair." It came from Layla Tran, the youngest on the team, barely 13. Coach snapped around. "Excuse me." Layla's lips trembled. "She swims faster than most of us." "Keep talking," he growled, stepping toward her, "and you'll join her on the bench." Layla's eyes welled, but she nodded. She stepped back, hands clenched, guilt painting her face. Amira caught her gaze for a second, a silent thank you, before Layla looked down, ashamed. The air was sharp. No one else spoke. Coach turned back to Amira, lowering his voice. "You people never know when you've already been given more than you deserve." Amira blinked once, twice. Her chest rose and fell faster, but she said nothing. Her eyes were glassy but not broken. That afternoon it got worse. Every time she touched the wall, Coach blew the whistle like she'd done something wrong. Lazy turn, sloppy dive. "You think this is a game, Cole?" The team watched. Some whispered. One boy, Ben Saunders, always eager to impress, chuckled and said under his breath, "Maybe water's not her element." A few around him laughed. A few looked away. When practice ended, Amira pulled herself from the pool, dripping, shaking slightly. Coach leaned in as she walked past him. "This is why you'll never be more than a footnote." She kept walking, but her jaw clenched, her fingers curled into fists. That night she sat in her room, knees to chest, wrapped in an old towel that still smelled like sea salt and memories. Her wall was lined with medals, regional, district, even state qualifiers. But they all looked dull now, like they belonged to someone else. A knock at the door. Amira, her father, asked gently. She didn't answer. Her dad, Marcus Cole, wasn't just a parent. He was a former Navy instructor, a survival trainer with scars you couldn't see under his button-up shirts. Quiet man. But when he spoke, people listened. He opened the door slowly, saw her there, small, silent. "You want to talk?" She shook her head. He nodded. Sat beside her anyway. They didn't need words for a moment like that. Just breath. Just presence. "I had a commander once," he said after a while. "Told me I didn't belong either. Said the only thing I'd lead was a mop." Amira looked up, eyes raw. "What did you do?" Marcus smiled. "But it wasn't warm. I survived long enough to outrank him, and make sure the next recruit didn't have to hear the same thing." Silence again. Then a whisper. "I want to quit." He placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "No, you want to fight back, but you're still deciding how." Amira didn't reply, but something shifted in her eyes. A flicker of something buried a spark. The next morning her lane was empty. Coach Lockley smirked as he checked attendance. Predictable, he said. But by Friday she was back. No announcement, no eye contact, just her standing beside the pool again. He blew his whistle. 5 penalty laps, for being late. "I was here on time," she said softly. His smirk disappeared. "Make it 10. No one spoke. Even Layla kept her head down. She dove in, swam all 10, didn't stop once. Later that night over dinner she told her father everything, word for word, every slur, every whistle, every glance. He listened, face calm. but his grip on the fork tightened knuckles bone white. "He thinks no one will stop him," Marcus finally said. "But he's wrong." Amira looked up, her breath caught. "What are you going to do?" He stood, walked to the hallway, pulled out a worn wooden box with his Navy medals and a USB stick. "I'm going to remind the world who funds that program, and why, and Amira." She didn't smile, but she stood taller, because she knew this time she wouldn't be fighting alone. Saturday morning hit colder than usual. The water looked still, but Amira could feel it. Something in the air had shifted. Her bag was already at the edge of lane 4. She stood there waiting, calm, collected. But inside, her breath was shallow, her fists clenched just enough to leave little half-moon marks in her palms. Coach Lockley blew the whistle sharp and loud. "Well, look who crawled back." His voice dripped with that same venom familiar, but today, different. He stepped forward, arms crossed. "Let me guess," he sneered. "Daddy gave you a pep talk and told you to be brave, touching." Amira said nothing, just looked him dead in the eye. One breath, then another. But her silence wasn't submission today, it was loaded, like a drawn bow. Coach Lockley raised his voice for the whole team to hear. "Since some of you think the rules don't apply to them, we'll be doubling drills today." Groans rippled through the team. Ben let out a low curse under his breath. A couple of swimmers shot looks at Amira, some annoyed, others conflicted. But no one spoke. Not yet. Just as Lockley raised the whistle again, the side doors slammed open. The sound echoed like a gunshot across the tiled space. Everyone turned. Marcus Cole stepped through calm as ever, wearing a dark navy coat and carrying a small black case. His shoes clicked evenly against the wet floor. Lockley's face twisted half irritation, half surprise. "This is a closed session," he barked. "Parents aren't allowed on deck." Marcus kept walking. Didn't raise his voice, didn't blink. "You're not going to want to stop me today." He reached the starting blocks, opened the case, and pulled out a portable speaker. Pressed play. Coach Lockley's own voice filled the room, recorded clear, vicious, "You're a courtesy pick, sweetheart. You people never know when you've been given more than you deserve." The room froze. Whispers spread like wildfire. Every kid stood still. Ben's smirk disappeared. Layla covered her mouth with both hands. Coach Lockley's face turned pale, then blotchy red. "That's out of context," he said quickly. "That's illegal recording. This is being blown out of proportion." Marcus turned off the speaker, met his eyes. "You don't get to rewrite what you said when it's echoing off the walls." Silence. Then movement. Coach Riley, the assistant, stepped forward. Her lips were tight. She had always played neutral, but now her hands were trembling. "Is that real?" she asked Marcus. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have to. The room already knew. Lockley looked around, expecting support. None came. Even the kids who once followed him now stared at the floor or at Amira. Emily stepped up beside her, quietly slipping her hand into Amira's. Effective immediately, Marcus said, voice low but steady, "I'm withdrawing my funding from Redbridge Aquatics unless this man is removed from his position." "You're bluffing," Lockley snapped. "This program can't survive without that grant." "I know," Marcus replied. "And so does the school board." Coach Riley took a shaky breath, then looked Lockley dead in the eyes. "Darren, you need to leave." He laughed, short, bitter. "I built this program," he muttered. "I made this team what it is." Amira spoke now calmly, without venom. "No, you just made people afraid to speak. You made winning ugly." That hit him. For a second, just a second, his expression cracked. Not guilt, not remorse, but fear. Not of punishment, but of irrelevance. Of being forgotten, replaced. Then rage. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "All of you." He yanked the whistle from his neck, tossed it onto the wet floor, turned on his heel. As he stormed out, the door swung hard, then slowly settled, creaking back into stillness. No one clapped, no cheers, just quiet, heavy, real. Coach Riley turned to the team. "If any of you believe Amira doesn't belong here, now's the time to leave." Nobody moved. Ben looked at her, then looked away, shame all over his face. Layla blinked back tears. Emily didn't let go of Amira's hand. And Amira. She didn't smile, but her shoulders relaxed, her breath steadied. That evening, local news outlets exploded. Clips of the confrontation went viral. #JusticeForAmira. let her swim, and hashtag Coach Lockley trended for 2 days straight. Some defended Lockley, called it cancel culture. Others applauded Marcus's actions, quoting his line, "You don't get to rewrite what you said when it's echoing off the walls." The school district issued a public statement. The mayor called it a wake-up call. The Redbridge Community Center launched an internal review. Civil rights organizations joined the conversation. But Amira stayed quiet online. She didn't need hashtags to prove she belonged. 2 weeks later, regional championships. Amira stood on the block for the 4x100 relay. Anchor leg. Her goggles fogged slightly, but her vision was sharp. The whistle blew. She dove. Every stroke clean, every turn tight, every heartbeat aligned with one thing: clarity. She touched the wall. First place. The team swarmed her, shouts, cheers, hugs. Even Ben high-fived her. Emily nearly knocked her over. Amira climbed out of the water, hair dripping, chest heaving. And in the distance, she saw Marcus' arms crossed, quiet pride in his eyes. That night she lay in bed, medal still around her neck. Not because it glittered, but because it meant something more. She didn't just win. She stayed. She fought. She changed something. But 3 weeks later, Coach Lockley filed a lawsuit claiming wrongful termination, defamation, and reputational damage. The town split. Again, some said he was wronged. Others said he got off easy. The fight wasn't over. But for now, Amira had won the right to swim in peace. You tell us who was right, who went too far. What would you have done? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this story if you still believe in justice.